The Ginetta GT Academy is heading out onto the circuit for its final race of the 2021 campaign. A maiden season for this exciting new championship. Exciting really has been the word as well. We've had some really terrific racing from this lot throughout the course of the season. And with most of the championships all settled already coming into this weekend, they've been able to really let their hair down and put on a show here around the Donington Park Grand Prix circuit. It's been a busy season for these drivers, racing at a number of different events, including on the British Touring Car package, but they've found their home, for the most part, here at these British GT meetings, and we've seen some really entertaining racing all year long. Seen some entertaining racing this weekend as well. The first race yesterday was won on the road by Roy Alderslade, but he was given a 5-second track limits penalty, so Wes Pearce inherited the victory, Angus Whiteside in second, whilst this morning's race was also won by Angus Whiteside, back on the podium again, ahead of Mackenzie Walker. It's Angus on pole for this one, with Mackenzie alongside him. It's the results from that second race that set the grid for the finale. Roy Alderslade and Wes Pearce on row number 2, ahead of Darren Leung and Tom Hartley Jr., making up the third row of the grid. Row 4 for Robin Grimwood and Gary Wager. Danny Dwyer and Martin Wills are on the 5th row of the grid together. And then just outside the top 10, John Kearney and Lee Goldsmith for Assetto Motorsport, rounding out the top dozen. And it's Mike Jordan and Neil Wallace on the 7th row of the grid. Row 8 is shared by Ed Akers and Gilbert Yates. Both of them actually pretty quick drivers, although we believe that Gilbert may possibly be a non-starter. Lee Frost and Sean Fleming at the back of the grid, but again, Lee's name not showing up, which means he potentially is not going to be there on the grid. So, yes, two exciting and eventful races. Yesterday's was in the dry. This morning's race, though, it was very, very wet out on the circuit, and that did catch one or two of them out. We didn't have any non-finishers, but there were a couple of drivers that had problems. Ed Akers, in particular, in the orange number 20, he was up there inside the top 4 on lap 1, made a mistake down into the Melbourne hairpin and ran on into the gravel. He got going again, albeit nearly a lap down, but his pace after that was enough to suggest that he really could have fought for a podium place. So keep an eye to the orange number 20. That one definitely should move through the field, starting 15th place as he is for this race, ahead of those that didn't start the previous race. And you've also got the likes of Lee Goldsmith coming from 12th on the grid. Angus Whiteside, though, is going to be tough to beat, I think, on pole. He won that second race earlier on over Mackenzie Walker by 8.9 seconds. But again, very different conditions now, so we could see slightly different form from some of the drivers at the pointy end of the field. And maybe some of those a bit further back might be glad that the rain has gone, because they may now feel a bit more confident to push on and move through the field. Marshals waving the field into their grid positions. Martin Wills there, the pink car, he had a spin yesterday. There's Ed Akers, the orange number 20, and at the back of the grid is number 66. So 66 is going to be there. That's Sean Fleming, but no sign of Gilbert Yates or Lee Frost. So as we suspected, those two are going to be non-starters. So the cars then lining up on the grid, and they should very shortly be released for the start of what will be a 20-minute race here around the Donington Park Grand Prix circuit. Last couple of cars just coming into position now, leaving gaps on the grid for those ahead that are absent from this final race of the season. Ginetta GT Academy then about to sign off their 2021 campaign, hopefully in style, with a really good race. Watch for the lights then. Angus Whiteside on the left. On the right, the white car is Mackenzie Walker. Lights go out now, and the leader doesn't go anywhere. It's a really sluggish start. A few of them look like they went and then stopped again. It was a bit of a messy start, that. Mackenzie Walker, I think, will hold the lead into the first corner. Coming up the inside is the blue car with the white nose. That is Roy Alderslade, and it's going to be down to 4th, maybe even 5th place for Whiteside by the time they come out of Redgate. Actually, he fights back and could even reclaim 3rd. Indeed, he does reclaim 3rd as they drop down the hill, because Wes Pearce, I think, there was a bit slow coming out of the first corner. And in fact, he now goes up the inside, just Whiteside, of Roy Alderslade. So he's back into 2nd. So went from 1st to 5th to 2nd, all in the space of a couple of corners. Darren Leung there, the red and black number 11 on the outside of Martin Wills in the Pink Panther machine, leaning on each other as they go up through Starkeys into Schwantz Curve. and towards McLean's, where it looked like the battle for the lead was starting to intensify. And is that now? Angus Whiteside back into first place. I think it might be ahead of Mackenzie Walker on cold tyres then. Angus just a bit more confident. And yes, he's moved his way through, so Whiteside leads then. Walker second and Alderslade third. Back to grid order. It's like nothing ever happened in the first half a lap for Angus Whiteside, and he'll now try and set sail whilst he can. The orange car there of Ed Akers, he's making good progress. He's up behind now the number 7 of Gary Wager. So that would put him somewhere on the fringes of the top 10, actually, unless Gary has lost ground on the start, which I think actually may be the case. So 16 cars then, we think, took the start of the race, and Ed Akers was pretty much right at the back of them. Martin Wills on the inside, gets it all wrong though, down at the hairpin, outbreaks himself, nearly took Tom Hartley Jr. wide with him, and then ends up losing another place anyway to the car directly behind him, Darren Young. So 1 up, 2 down for the Pink Panther. But at the end of the opening lap, it is going to be Angus Whiteside then who comes through as the race leader. Second place Mackenzie Walker. Wills is wide again, look in the background, and now losing more places. Ed Akers picks up a bit of a freebie there. Akers is 9th from 15th on the grid by going in just 1 lap of racing. And now he's going to try and gain another one. Is he up the inside of the number 23? That is Danny Dwyer. That would be for 8th position. It didn't quite pull it off though through that first corner. Down into the right-hander at the old hairpin, go the top 3, definitely gapping the group of cars behind. Ed Akers here needs to try and get past Danny Dwyer as quickly as he can, because he can see there's a bit of a gap then to the next group, which is the sort of 5th, 6th, 7th place battle. And he'd very much like to be a part of that before the end of the race. Oh, sideways for Alderslade, hops over that curve through McLean's corner. Up through Copper's really tricky right-hander. These Ginetta GT Academy cars running on Michelin tyres. It's a grooved tyre as well, so it's not slick. They don't have a huge amount of grip. It's all about driver's ability and being able to carry the good speed through the corners, even though the car is perhaps sliding around a bit underneath you. Whiteside definitely seems to have got to grips with that, doesn't he? Because he was 0.6 of a second to the good at the end of the opening lap, despite falling back to 5th at turn 1. That being said, he's not really escaping, is he? He's still under pressure from Walker and Alderslade. Young up the inside of Tom Hartley Jr. And that puts Young into 6th position now then, as they work their way through the Melbourne loop. There are the top 3. All really congested here. Whiteside defending into the last corner, but he didn't really need to, and so Mackenzie Walker just seeing an opportunity maybe to challenge on the run down towards Redgate corner. Didn't get off the corner quickly enough though, so they stay pretty much as they were. It's the 3rd car in shot though that's setting the fastest times. Roy Alderslade, a 1 minute 43.695, means that he has closed in on these two. The top 3 covered by a fraction over 1 second now, with Wes Pearce a further 2.5 seconds back in 4th. Crane occurs, brilliant place to go and spectate from there down at the old hairpin. It's a bit of a walk to get over there, but well worth the trip. Getting some spectacular long-distance views here at Donington Park. It's the best in the country, and it always provides entertaining racing as well. It's just one of those tracks that is just made for side-by-side racing. A real momentum circuit, so once you get a battle pack and they all start tripping over each other, things can get very, very lively indeed. Angus Whiteside wants none of that, though. He's trying to escape from the front of the field. In the first sector, a 1/10.5 quicker than Mackenzie Walker, but I think in this middle sector he's found a bit more time, hasn't he? The second sector ends just about there. And yeah, he's another 0.3 quicker than Walker on that occasion. So the lead gap now starting to go out. Ed Akers, meanwhile, is on the tail of Tom Hartley Jr. This is for 7th place. He goes up the inside into the chicane. Tom turns in, there's contact. That was completely predictable. And Tom Hartley Jr. backwards into the gravel trap of the chicane. I mean, Ed Akers was clearly up the inside there, wasn't he, really? There wasn't much that Ed could do either to avoid that, because there's a big tyre stack on the inside of the left-hand element of the Foxy S's. And if he'd gone any further left, he'd have head-butted that. Wills then gets up the inside of Danny Dwyer, who briefly moved up to challenge Akers, but then was on the wrong side of the road, overcooked it into Melbourne. And so Wills and Lee Goldsmith both go through. 2 places lost then for him. And then, in fact, that's not Lee Goldsmith next, because Goldsmith's at the back of that group. There is Hartley Jr. though, and that confirmed my fears that the car was beached in the gravel, going no further. And that's a tricky spot, actually, to do a recovery from, because They will use live snatches here at Donington Park. You can see the green machine in the background, one of the live snatch vehicles. They'll send those out onto the circuit in order to collect cars, but not really there, because that's sort of on the inside of the circuit. And so the vehicle would have to cross the track, I suspect, to get there. Here's the replay. I mean, Akers, yes, he commits to it relatively late, but it's before the braking zone. He's up the inside, and Tom just turns in like he's not there. And, yeah, unfortunately, that was a little bit self-inflicted, I'd say, for Tom Hartley Jr. He's in the rookie class, of course, so certainly not a very experienced driver, but maybe that's showing there. The safety car, then, is out, so the first time, I think, all day that we've had a safety car here at Donington Park. In fact, I'm struggling to remember if we had one at any point yesterday either. We may have done, but certainly today we've had some really clean racing, and most of the incidents that we have had have been dealt with by the live snatches. But this one does require the appearance of the McLaren safety car. You can see why. It's clearly in a dangerous place. We've seen a lot of people straight lining that chicane. When they get it wrong on the way in, they bail into the gravel trap. And that car is right in the firing line now. Bit of a disagreement there maybe between Martin Wills and Gary Wage as to who should have been ahead. The man that this really benefits, actually, apart from Mackenzie Walker, who gets another chance to close in on Angus Whiteside, but in particular Ed Akers, because Akers was 7th but had a bit of real estate there, and he was about 4 seconds or so behind Darren Leung. Well, that 4 seconds evaporates, look, because Leung is there, the black and red number 11, and Ed Akers, the orange car, now right behind him. So that gap is down to nothing. Marshall there chatting away to Tom Hartley Jr. As ever, our thanks go out to the hard-working marshals here at Donington Park. They've had some pretty grim weather to be stood out there in today. It's a bit more pleasant now, the sun even threatening to break through, but we've had a lot of rain this morning, only really let up just before the British GT race started. And they've dealt with lots of incidents this weekend as efficiently and safely, ultimately, as we would always expect from them. So thank you so much to all of our volunteer marshals. So 4 laps in the book then. It's a 20-minute race this, so just over 12 minutes to go. Angus Whiteside, the race leader. Mackenzie Walker is 2nd. Roy Alderslade is 3rd, ahead of Wes Pearce 4th, and Robin Grimwood in the top 5. All of those drivers are in the GTA class for more experienced drivers, with the exception of the race leader, Angus Whiteside, who was the first rookie to win a race overall earlier on this year. And he's gone on to win many more since then. Outside the top 5, then Darren Leung is 6th and Ed Akers is 7th. Those two I was just mentioning are now together. Significant because they're actually 2nd and 3rd in the rookie class as well. So there's a class podium up for grabs between those two. Martin Wills then is 8th, Gary Wage at 9th, and Danny Dwyer rounding out the top 10. There are those two that I was on about. Ed Akers up behind Darren Leung. But I think that Akers is the quicker of the two this weekend, and if he clears Leung quickly, he might be able to get past Grimwood and maybe even Wes Pearce for a top 4 place. Top 3 might be asking a bit much, because we saw the first part of the race, the way that those top 3 drivers really pulled clear at the head of the field. They built a gap quite early, quite quickly after the initial start of the race, so they're likely to do the same again once we get the restart. There is the recovery ongoing. Dragging the car through the gravel. This is going off, and having an accident is bad enough as a driver, but then sitting by and watching as the marshals drag your car through the gravel trap has got to be excruciating, because it's quite easy to damage the cars. They're not designed to go through gravel traps, be that forwards or backwards or sideways, but sometimes they have to be dragged through the gravel trap in those ways in order to get them out of the way. Very easy to dig the car in, pull off some bodywork. Again, the marshals are all trained to do that properly, and it's very, very rare that can happen, but still, as the driver, that's all that's going through your head in that moment. You do not want your car, which has already potentially been damaged, to receive any further damage, because ultimately someone has to pay for that to be fixed, and it's usually the driver that was in it. So there is the recovery process almost done now. They'll just pull it behind that barrier. We should go racing next time through. As you can see, they've just started their 6th lap then, which is a 3rd lap essentially behind the safety car. So the spectators will not have to wait much longer before the race gets back underway. Another example there of how you can get these brilliant long-distance views. That's up at McLean's, right at the far end of the circuit, but you can actually see, if your eyesight's good enough, the run from Redgate down through the Craner Curves as well. Disappear from view briefly out of the old hairpin. There's a great spectator area actually just behind where our camera position is as well, up on that grass bank where you can see almost half the circuit. It's, as I said, a brilliant place to come and spend a weekend watching some really top quality racing. We've been treated to some of that today already. We should get about 8 minutes worth of racing out of this race once the safety car comes back in. Angus Whiteside looking to try and rebuild that margin that he had earlier on. There's Tom Hartley Jr. trudging away, the recovery now complete. Angus Whiteside will now start to turn his attention to the race restart. If he has a plan, he'll know exactly what he wants to do, which is to build a gap over Walker and leave him battling with Roy Alderslade. But there are a few different ways of doing it. And typically here at Donington Park, we tend to see drivers either go really early, accelerate out to the Melbourne hairpin, or go really late, literally as they come out of the final turn, stamp on the throttle when you're midway through the corner. They're the two most prominent ways of getting a restart done. Looks like Whiteside might be going for the second of those because he's not really dropped back that far from the safety car. In fairness to him, though, the lights only just went out on the safety car. Didn't give him a huge amount of time to plan what he's going to do here. So Whiteside then, with the lead, now becomes the control car for the safety car. Keep an eye behind him, though, because that's where we could see quite some action. Ed Akers looking to try and make even more positions up here before the flag. Whiteside then out of the final turn, 8 minutes to go. We're back racing again here at Donington Park, and Angus Whiteside leads them towards Redgate Corner for the 8th time in the race. In towards the right-hander then, hard on the brakes. He's defending the inside, even though Mackenzie Walker wasn't that close to him. There's that fight for second place in the rookie class. Akers to the outside of Young. He's not going to get him on the way into the corner, but he should carry more speed off it and get up the inside through Hollywood, down into the crater curves. Bit of a squeeze. Akers almost on the grass. They almost lean on each other through the right-hander. Now to the left through the crater curves. It's brave to go around the outside there, but Ed Akers has the bravery to do it. He's got the line now into the old hairpin, and he moves through. Second place in class then for Ed Akers. 6th place overall. What more progress can he make, though? His next target is Robin Grimwood in 5th position. Side by side up the road, meanwhile, and that is the number 70 of Mackenzie Walker, dropping behind the number 27 of Roy Alderslade. So Alderslade goes second, and Walker, a bit like at the initial start of the race, just doesn't seem to quite have the confidence on cold tyres, does he? Once the race settles down, he's got the speed to run with Alderslade and Whiteside. But that first half a lap or so, after a race start or a restart, Mackenzie just seems to be on the back foot a little bit. So through goes Alderslade. We'll see if he's got the pace to go after Angus Whiteside. Here goes Leung, turning into the chicane. For those raised curbs that are there to deter the drivers from cutting the chicane, is not really working, because we've had a lot of drivers getting in trouble for exceeding track limits at that very corner. Big move up the inside there, a bit further back. Who was that? That was the number 10 of Lee Goldsmith going through. And a spin for Martin Wills. He spun at the final corner in yesterday's race, and he's done it at the penultimate turn this time. And because he's done it straight after a restart, he has to wait for the whole field to go through. There was no gap in the traffic for him to rejoin any sooner than that. So, yeah, that will send him right down to 15th and last of the runners. Started with 16. We lost Tom Hartley Jr. at the chicane, of course, which brought about that safety car. Right, here comes Akers on the attack again, looking up the inside of Grimwood, so he's bridged this gap pretty rapidly. Grimwood a little wide through the middle of Redgate, comes out of the corner still on top. Interestingly, Darren Leung is very much going with Akers as well, so Akers in really good form, but sort of helping out Leung in a way, dragging him forwards with him. Tyre smoke. I paused because I heard the tyre squeal, then I saw the tyre smoke. I thought someone might have been off the old hairpin, but I think they're all still there. Just a little lock-up for one of the leaders. Akers got the inside here into McLean's. He's looking at it, but he's also, of course, trying to defend from Leung behind him. Wide goes Grimwood, though, very wide. He's out in the gravel, and that surely now will do it. Up the inside line goes the number 20, and Edward Akers is going to go through into P5. Darren Leung goes through with him as well, though, so again, good driving there from Darren to latch onto the back of the potentially quicker driver and try and follow him through the order. They both get themselves ahead of Robin Grimwood. 5th place now for Akers, 6th for Leung, and the pit lane for Martin Wills. Spin, I don't know if there's damage or if there's a problem with the car or if he's just fed up, but he's pulled into the pits with a quarter of the race still to go. He might get back out there, but he's going to be the best part of a lap down. Tyres squealing away through the Melbourne hairpin then, as they head up towards the final corner. There's Whiteside then. Second place, Roy Alderslade. Mackenzie Walker, 4th place, where's Pierce? He's now the one with the target on his back for Ed Akers, who's come through from 15th on the grid to be running now in 5th position. 10 places gained, always difficult to do that in a one-make series. Akers managing to do it with relative ease, though, it would seem, in this race, showing the pace potential that he had in that last race. Lee Goldsmith gains 2 positions on that lap because he's also got himself ahead of Grimwood. In fact, Grimwood has lost 2 further places, hasn't he? Well, 1 further place, I should say. Akers and Young went through, we saw that. But then Lee Goldsmith gets him as well. So down to 8th position for Grimwood, 9th place for Gary Wager. They both dropped behind Goldsmith on that lap. You can see the way that group has really fallen behind Akers and Young now as well, to the tune of nearly 3 seconds. Whiteside, though, is 1.8 seconds up the road at the head of the field. Roy Alderslade has a second in hand over Walker in 3rd. So again, all of the action really behind those 3. Planes down the exhibition straight, and there you can see the gaps at the head of the field then. So Whiteside the leader, Alderslade 2nd, Walker 3rd, Pearce 4th, and well, on this lap alone, Ed Akers and Darren Leung have taken chunks out of him. In the first sector there wasn't much in him, but in the middle sector they're both a full second quicker than Wes Pearce, and Wes has been rapid all season long really, so that is massively impressive pace. He may have made a mistake, of course, but either way, that is very quick for Akers. He goes up the inside through the Melbourne hairpin. Now, he's not quite got the job done, though. He gets sideways on the exit, too, so I reckon he'll have to drop back in line. He does. Thankfully, Darren Leung was not close enough to capitalise on that, get up the inside. Although he does have a little peek at that move into the final corner. Across the line again, down towards Redgate. 2 more laps to go then, just under 2 3/4 minutes to go in this race. Whiteside to Alderslade is now 2.5 seconds. Darren Leung goes up the inside of Ed Akers. Surely he can't get that stopped. He runs a bit wide in the middle of the corner, and on the exit, yep, Ed Akers snatches it straight back again. I mean, 10 out of 10 for effort there for Darren Leung, but that was a little bit of a scrappy attempt to overtake. The Redgate dive bomb, though, is a very popular move to make, because it's quite a wide run into the corner. Tightens up a lot at the apex, though, so it does promote lots of those overtaking attempts, but it's quite hard to get the car slowed down on the much tighter angle. Delayed them both, really, though, and it's maybe just prevented Akers from having a real serious shot, at least on this lap, at getting past Wes Pearce, but he should still have the time to close back in on Wes, I reckon. So he's got the speed, it's just a matter of how much more he gets delayed by watching his mirrors. Now he knows that Darren Leung is no longer content to ride shotgun here, and he is going to attack him if he gets the opportunity. Then that will just mean that Akers is a bit more aware of the number 11 car behind him. Side-by-side battle here. Gary Wager on the left, on the right is Robin Grimwood, who's trying to defend 8th position as they go into the chicane. He defends it going in, but then he's a little bit slow through the middle part of it. Up the inside on the exit goes Wager, and that's the inside line now for the hairpin down at Melbourne. And late on the brakes there for Wager. Gets to the apex, stops the car. Quite a frustrating corner, the Melbourne hairpin for the drivers. It's a very stop-start final sector, really, but it's spectacular for us viewers, though. Generates a lot of overtaking, that Melbourne hairpin. Get a good exit from the chicane, which ain't easy to do, but if you do get a good exit, you are then in prime position to have a go at overtaking at the next corner. So with less than a minute left on the clock, Angus Whiteside is on his final lap of the race. Drops down through the crane of curves, 3.1 seconds to the good over Alderslade in 2nd. He is, in turn, 1 3/4 seconds ahead of Mackenzie Walker, who is being caught by that Pearce, Akers and Leung trio. Off has gone Gary Wager, so that's how that battle ended then. Wager did get the place, actually, at the line, so Wager was ahead of Grimwood, as we saw at the hairpin, but then ended up off at Redgate. Whether he jumped or was pushed, I know not, but is unfortunately going to be a non-finish for Gary in the number 7 car. Through Coppice corner, Angus Whiteside just needs to bring it home now then. It's not quite going to be the hat-trick of race victories. He was 3rd on the road yesterday, elevated to 2nd after Roy Alderslade's post-race penalty. So you could have been forgiven for thinking that his race 2 win was simply because of the conditions. Maybe he was just better in the wet, but in the dry he's been sublime as well. Didn't get a good start, had quite a lot of action in the first half a lap or so, but once he hit the front, he has never lost the lead, handled that safety car restart pretty well as well. So Angus Whiteside now just 1 corner from home, then makes his way up the hill. Background you can just about see Roy Alderslade in the number 27 car, but that gap is a big one for Angus Whiteside. He won the previous race by an even bigger margin, though, 8.9 seconds. But after the safety car interrupted race, it is the second race win of the weekend for Angus Whiteside. Takes the checkered flag across the start-finish line. Second place, Roy Alderslade, and side by side behind. Third is going to be Walker. Fourth is just about Wes Pearce by 29 thousandths of a second. Wes Pearce fends off the charging Ed Akers from the back of the grid. Darren Leung 6th, 7th Lee Goldsmith, 8th Robin Grimwood, 9th Danny Dwyer, and 10th position should go to, well, probably John Kearney, actually, because, of course, Gary Wager went off on the last lap, and yeah, Kearney does just get that 10th position as well. Angus Whiteside, though, the man on form here this weekend. It's a shame that Toby Trice didn't choose to come and race this weekend. Toby was crowned the champion last time out at, in the penultimate meeting of the year at Silverstone. But Toby Trice, a well-deserved champion within the Ginetta GT Academy. And yeah, made the decision not to come and race at the final round of the series. With that championship within the GTA class, he gets free entry into a Ginetta championship of his choice. So be interesting to see where Toby decides to go now. Will it be into maybe GT5 Challenge, or will he stay down the G50 5/6 route and go and race in the GT4 Super Cup? That's probably a bigger step up in competition, but at least it would be a similar car that he'd be driving, although, of course, those cars run on slick tyres. It is the older spec G55 as well that gets raced in the GT4 Super Cup. We shall wait and see, but exciting things on the horizon for our 2021 champion. He's not here this weekend, though, so Angus Whiteside has had it slightly easier and takes his second race victory of the day. Roy Alderslade, second place, having passed Mackenzie Walker on the restart. Mackenzie coming home in third position, and those two are the top two within the GTA category. Wes Pearce was fourth, Ed Akers was fifth, ahead of Darren Leung 6th, then Lee Goldsmith, Robin Grimwood, Danny Dwyer, and John Kearney to round out the top 10. Neil Wallace was in 11th, 12th place Mike Jordan, 13th Sean Fleming, ahead of Gary Wager after, well, he's a non-finisher technically, never was running at the flag. He went off at Redgate Corner. Martin Wills pulled into the pit lane after a spin, and Tom Harley Jr. brought out the first safety car of the day when he went off at the chicane. So as we move towards the climax of the day here, more Ginetta action coming today from Donington Park, though. The Pro Tire Motorsport Ginetta GT5 Challenge will not, so stick around for that one. They had a very entertaining wet race earlier on, and I'm sure their third racing now, much drier conditions, will be just as, if not even more, exciting. But the GT Academy cars, they are done for the day, they're done for the season, and a really successful first season, I think, for this brand new championship. It was newly formed at the start of the year. There was a lot of interest to see what it was going to do, really, this championship, whether it was going to be, you know, where it was going to slot in with the Ginetta Racing ladder. It sort of ended up replacing what was the GRDC, the Ginetta Racing Drivers Club, which was the entry-level series for drivers that often had little or no racing experience, and that's kind of what this has done now. It's a slightly higher performance car than the G40, though, and so maybe a bit more of an attractive proposition for those wanting to start racing with Ginetta from scratch. And it certainly provided us with lots of thrills and some really talented drivers that have raced with us, including Toby Trice, so I'm sure is going to be hoping that he is destined for big things in the future. Angus Whiteside, though, another who has really come on strong in the latter part of the season, and double thumbs up for our double race winner here at Donington. And Angus Whiteside will walk over to Roy Alderslade, congratulate him. Roy coming home in second place, but also taking a class win. The top two in the race, both class winners. The rookie class for Whiteside, the GTA class for Roy Alderslade. Immediately, drivers going over and shaking hands with each other, chatting about battles they may have had. I think that's Mackenzie Walker, isn't it, that's come over to have a word with Roy Alderslade, probably discussing the overtake in which he lost second place. Which was just a good move from Roy Alderslade, really. But yeah, Mackenzie Walker will have been disappointed, I think, to have lost that second position. Got one earlier on today, though. It was a good day for Mackenzie, who's not raced with us all season. Hopefully will do in 2022. So GT Academy, Ginetta GT Academy Racing done then for the 2021 season. As I said, it's been a really successful season for them. Looking forward to seeing this championship grow as we move into the future then. And from Donington Park, we have had another 3 very, very entertaining races, regardless really of what the track conditions have been. So that is it then for the Ginetta GT Academy. They'll be back again next season after a really entertaining debut year in 2021.